Today we will do the unthinkable and talk about the tariffs and how they're going to affect TCGs. Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie, and I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. Strap in, everybody. We're going to talk about these Trump tariffs and the things that are going on in the world and the economy. I've got notes. We're going to try our best here to have a civilized conversation because everybody keeps asking me, what are these tariffs going to do? How are they going to affect the Pokemon world, the Magic the Gathering world, the world of trading cards? I'm going to start out with a couple of things. Number one, I don't want this to be a political conversation. I don't care who you voted for. You shouldn't care who I voted for. I don't care any of that stuff. I don't care about who's to blame and all that stuff. That's for somebody else to handle. That's for a conversation not at your kitchen table. Don't do it at Thanksgiving. That's for a whole different conversation, okay? Today I want to look at what the reality is and what I think things might happen, and how I think what's going to happen is going to affect the Pokemon world, the Magic the Gathering world, the local card shop world, and the way that you and I interact with TCGs over the next couple months. Now, I want to be very clear. I have no freaking clue what is actually going to happen. Neither do you, neither does the guy in the comment section, and neither does another YouTuber who's going on. This is kind of a world of unprecedented and unimaginable consequences. We don't really know how bad things are going to get, how good things are going to get. We don't really know what is going to happen. We don't even know if it's going to happen. But I want to play the game of what might happen. I want to share with you what my play is, what I am doing currently in the world of card games to prepare for this, because it is something that's on my radar. So the long story short on this is that you can't just sit on the sidelines and complain and be fearful. You've got to do something. When everybody else is focused on other things, you got to figure out what you're doing. Be focused on it, believe in something, and not just sit on the sidelines and complain. That's what I want to talk about. We're only going to discuss this based on increased costs, okay? I don't want to go down the rabbit trail of talking about what happens if we are in a recession, what happens if we go to a depression. I don't want to. Right now, we're just going to figure out what happens if these tariffs increase the cost of the goods of Pokemon cards and Magic cards and all the things that we talk about on the channel. That's what we're going to talk about because I don't know if you know this, but almost all of the collector booster boxes for Magic the Gathering are printed in Japan. You have a ton of product for Magic the Gathering printed in Belgium. A lot of the other kind of indie TCGs, a lot of them use the Belgium printing facility. There's a lot of card games, we talk about Sorcery Contest Realm, that's printed in China. There's a lot of other card games printed in China and in Japan and a lot of different ways. So if these tariffs go into effect, it should and probably will have an effect on prices. Now, Pokemon, interestingly, you kind of assume Pokemon, Japanese Pokemon company, whatever, they have printing facilities in the United States, and you very well may see some of these other card games migrate stuff to the United States and to avoid the tariffs. But it's probably not going to happen tomorrow. And there are probably going to be effects of this long lasting and over that. Even if they do move things to the United States, sometimes it's more expensive to print things in the United States. So regardless of what happens, the prices are going to rise. And, having conversations with people, one of the things that's kind of apparent is if all the costs of all other goods rise, and if one game raises their box prices, somebody like Wizards of the Coast is not going to just look at it and be like, well, we're going to keep our box prices cheap. Wizards never avoids an opportunity to raise their box price. And so they will most certainly use this as an example of raising their price. So we have no clue what's going to happen. We just know things are going to be more expensive. What does that mean? And what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for me? Well, first and foremost, I think the biggest risk right now is pre-orders. I think if you are a local card store, even at the distribution level, stuff might happen very quickly over the next couple months. So we saw this in Canada where you had these Canadian LGSs who did pre-orders for product took money, months in advance. Then the tariffs went into place, and then all of a sudden the value of their product, they couldn't afford it. The price of the tariffs was more than the price that they were charging, the profit that they were charging. So they were losing money on the product that they had pre-sold. And this is first off one of those things, one of those reasons that I personally we don't do pre-orders that far advanced. We don't do pre-orders until we know our allocation. Then we set money aside for those pre-orders. Then we do the pre-orders, and we balance kind of, I have 2 checking accounts that we balance, and we keep the pre-order money separate to make sure that we don't ever get in a scenario like this. But a lot of card stores don't do that. And I'm not saying that my way is better. My way is less risky, right? That's like my world. I try to minimize the risks to my family and that kind of stuff. That's less risky. But there's going to be canceled pre-orders, looking at like things like Final Fantasy, where people have been pre-ordering. What happens if these tariffs go into place and distro cost of Final Fantasy goes up 20%? All these pre-orders, it's going to be interesting. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. Again, I don't want to speak in any absolutes in this video. I just want to play the game of looking at what ifs and talking about what it could happen. And so this is one of those things I think you need to be very careful. If you're a store owner, or if you buy, sell, trade stuff, be careful of understanding your pre-orders. You're going to get product. They're not going to cancel Magic the Gathering sets over this, right? They're not going to just be like, oh, sorry, Final Fantasy, we can't do that because of the tariffs. They're still going to have all that. It just might cost more than they anticipated 6 months ago when they released the distro and, the information to distro, than 3 months ago or 2 months ago when distro put up those pre-orders. Who knows? We may see an increase in price on the next Magic the Gathering sets. That could very realistically, in this scenario, happen. Somebody's going to pay more money for these products. At the end of the line, it's certainly going to be the consumer, but I don't think that distro is going to eat the fees or eat the tariffs for stores. I don't think Wizards of the Coast is going to eat the tariffs for the distributors, and I don't think stores are going to eat the tariffs for the consumers. At the end of the day, you're going to have some people cancel things, and it's going to be a mess. So my advice, my insight on this, or what I am personally doing, is not getting all, hyped up on pre-orders. I don't know what something's going to cost, so I don't want to sell it. So we're just kind of holding back. We already were doing that, but I think even more stores need to do that. The thing that I think I want to get into the most here is this idea that things are probably going to go up in price in terms of new product. And what I think this means, it's hard to wrap around this because it's so easy to just be negative about the increase in price. And listen, I don't want you to pay more money for booster boxes either. Like, I'm team get product to people. We try to do our pre-orders at our sales, our new sets. We try to be a little bit below like market price. We try to that's what we try to do. But if the new product is more expensive, let's say a new Magic box, a new Pokemon box now costs 25% more money. Who knows, right? What people aren't going to just stop buying. Now, if we get into a recession and a depression and all that stuff, people stop buying. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about short term, the next couple months, what happens in the market before we get down that rabbit trail because of price increases. If the new box is, 25% more expensive, then people tend to still buy. They just don't buy the new thing. They go back in time and buy the cheaper thing. We've seen this plenty of times in the world of Magic and Pokemon, where when you see a box price, and let's say the new box price is now $200, but hey, you can still get this old set, this old thing for $125 or $150. All of a sudden, the old product that is already here, isn't affected by the tariffs, isn't affected by all this stuff, starts drifting up in price because the attention and the demand goes away from the new, more expensive thing and back to the, kind of in-house older thing. And so as a business, one of the things that I am really focusing on is how do I make sure that I have inventory? How do I make sure I have product? How do I make sure I have supply of other sets so that I know, hey, listen, if the tariffs go up and all of a sudden distro raises their prices, maybe I just buy a little bit less, right? And I can focus on the other stuff and still have supply for other things for when people say no to that product. So that's a really big one that for me, I've really been highlighting on, is this idea that when things are more expensive, people go to other stuff. And so they will go to the older products. So for me, I'm stocking up on cases of Pokemon boxes, cases of the Magic releases, making sure we have play boosters to do drafts. You know, if our draft price has to go up 25%, well, what if, you know, we only do the new set once a month and 3 other times a month on Fridays, we draft an old set and it's still $20 rather than 25 or 30. So just creating ways to go back in time to before the tariffs, so that people can still engage with the hobby, I think is the way that I am problem solving this. The other big thing here, for those of you who predominantly do sealed product, this is going to affect sealed product. For those of you who do singles and you're buying collections and you're, you're doing that kind of singles game, this isn't going to really affect that world. There's no, everything here already in the United States, there's no extra tariffs on. So for me, we already have a pretty big singles catalog. Go to KitchenTableTCG.com, pick up some Magic the Gathering singles. That would be great. If you use the website, you avoid us paying TCG player fees, and holy moly, could they do some stuff for TCG player. Anyway, so by pivoting your business model to not exclusively sell sealed product, you're mitigating your risk, you're minimizing your risk to the tariffs by also handling singles. And that's one of the things I feel like if I've done anything well, which, some days I'm like, oh, I haven't done anything good. If I've done anything well in my business, it's like my business isn't all revolved around sealed product. We do a ton of singles, we do a ton of sealed, we do, we're live sometimes, we do a lot of different things. And so if you can diversify your business into doing things that aren't affected by the tariffs, singles, that kind of stuff, I think that's a big win. Now you're gonna see a price increase on new Magic the Gathering singles, new Pokemon singles, because if the box costs more, the cards are just gonna cost more. Stores aren't gonna put them up there for less money and lose money on things. That's just the way it is. So those are the big thoughts that I have when talking about this, that a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And that's usually that's a good thing. In this case, it's a bad thing. But, you've got rising prices are gonna make everything kind of move up. So for me, it's focus on some of the older product to make sure that increased demand, we have the product. And then also just realizing that there are ways to engage in this industry that can be beneficial and that could probably avoid that tariff kind of thing. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Please try to keep it civilized. I mean, I want more comments and I want more discussion and I want back and forth because that's great for the channel, great for the algorithm. But just remember, the goal of this is not to be political. It's to look at this and say, okay, what's gonna happen and how can we best prepare for that as a business and as an industry? And those are my thoughts. Have yourself a great day. Be kind to the people around you. We'll see you again next video.